Game of Thrones, Hand of the King is a small box card game designed by Bruno Cathala and published by Fantasy Flight Games. In Hand of the King, 2 to 4 players attempt to maneuver Varys, the Master of Whisperers, around King's Landing. King's Landing is the name of both the city from the books and show and the play area where the game's cards are laid out in a grid. Players are trying to earn the loyalty of the 7 most powerful houses in Westeros through the maneuvering of Varys. All of the game's 35 character cards and the Varys card are laid out randomly in a 6x6 grid. The character cards are all familiar faces and names from the popular TV show and novels, and all belong to one of the game's 7 houses. The houses are as small as House Tully with only 2 characters, and range up to 8 characters in House Stark, with each of the other 5 houses consisting of 3, 4, 5, and 6 characters. However, the size of the house doesn't matter in the end unless there's a tie. What matters is the number of house banners a player controls at the end of the game. The player with the most banners wins. On a player's turn, he or she moves Varys in a straight line, declaring a house name as they do so. Varys moves to the furthest character in the declared house and replaces that card in the grid. The player collects all of the characters from that house that Varys passed over or stopped on and add them to their personal play area. Whenever a player gains the most characters from a house, or ties another player for the most characters of a house, that player gains control of that house's banner. The gameplay is deceptively simple, however, as predicting your opponent's moves and blocking them from gaining the characters they need requires careful planning and a healthy dose of forward thinking. Aside from the 35 character cards, which are the same in every game they're randomly assigned a spot in the grid, there are also 14 companion cards. 6 of the 14 are randomly drawn and placed beside the main card grid each game, and the rest are returned to the box. These companion cards include Shae, Hodor, Bronn, and Jon Snow. Whenever a player picks up the last character card of a house from the grid, regardless of whether or not this wins them control of the house's banner, they get to choose a companion card and activate their ability. The companions can be very powerful and have the ability to sway the course of a game by killing characters still in King's Landing, killing a character under a player's control, stealing characters from another player, switching the positions of characters in King's Landing, etc. So, let's talk about Hand of the King. Well, anybody who watches the channel regularly knows that I am a big fan of small box games. What you might not know is that I'm also a really big fan of Game of Thrones, both the current TV show that's so popular and the novels, and I started reading them way back in the late 90s when they came out. So with those things combined with the fact that it is a fantasy flight game designed by Bruno Cathala, forget about it. I love the Hand of the King. It is a very small filler game. There's no way around that. You're probably not going to get a whole game night based around Hand of the King, but that doesn't make it any less fun. I'm a huge proponent of filler games. I think they're great for whenever you're waiting for more members of your party, or if you just want to have a game night dedicated to several smaller games. Well, Hand of the King really fits that bill perfectly. The game is strategic, how you move Varys, and how you try to predict where your opponents are going to move, and how you try to set yourself up for the next turn so that you can gain control of characters and win over these warring houses. It's great, and it's super strategic. Now, it is way easier to predict your moves and kind of plan ahead with 2 players than it is with 3 or 4, especially 4. Whenever there's 3 other people moving Varys around, it's almost impossible to predict where they're going to be. So it's a little bit harder. It becomes less of a strategic game and more of a tactical game, reacting to the other players. Now, the box is very small, so obviously there's not a whole lot of components in it, but what there is very high quality, which is par for the course for Fantasy Flight games. The game is very inexpensive, and again, if you like a Game of Thrones, if you like small box games, particularly small box filler games, I think you'd really like Hand of the King. I very highly recommend it. And if you like this video, please be sure to subscribe and visit the website at www.flamingdicereviews.com and follow us on Twitter at FlamingDiceRev. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.